Welcome to Writer's Digest Presents. Hosted by the editors of Writer's Digest, this monthly podcast features conversations with writing and publishing experts whose insights will help ignite your creative vision, hone your skills, build your platform, and get your work out into the world. Welcome to a special episode of Writer's Digest Presents. I'm Editor-in-Chief Amy Jones, alongside founder of Rosecliff Literary agent Jessica Berg. Hey, Jessica.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Last year, WD hosted our first international writing tour plus retreat, all in one trip, one in Florence and San Gimignano, and one in London and Bath, England. This spring, Jessica and I will be taking another group of writers to Tuscany for another writing retreat. So today, we thought we would talk about what writers can get out of attending writing retreats generally, and share a few details about our upcoming trip specifically. So, Jessica, you've been on many more writing retreats than I have. So I wondered, what do you see as the benefits for writers who choose to go on these kind of retreats?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I think ultimately writer retreats offer two things that writers can't get in their daily life, and that's permission and time. Right? So it's permission to step out of their regular lives, forget the inbox, forget the to-do list, and then really sit to their pages. Because retreats force this sort of concentrated honesty. And what I mean by that is you learn what kind of writer you are when you're not multitasking your creativity throughout the rest of your life. And then we get time, right? We get the time to sit to our pages when we're surrounded by other people who are also taking their work seriously. And something shifts in that. I think authors ultimately feel less alone, and you start talking about your work without translating it because you're with your community. So definitely permission and time.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Like, that's exactly what happened on the trip that I took last year. Like I said, it was the first, real writing retreat that I had been on. And it was a retreat combination with tour, so there was the sightseeing part of things. But even during that, when we were walking to and from the places, people were talking to each other about what they were working on and asking questions of each other and making connections in a way that they had real time to get into the stuff instead of, at a conference, and I guess we'll talk a little bit about this more, but it wasn't a quick 10 minutes in the hallway between sessions. They were really getting into the nitty-gritty with each other, and it was really neat to see. It was something that you just don't get in your everyday life. You're right.
Yeah, you absolutely don't get that. And, because we all come from different professional backgrounds, when we're trying to translate our writing to folks who aren't authors, there's so much backstory that has to go into it. Okay, this is what my character, who's an MC, or my plot point, right? It's the shorthand that you can develop with other creatives. And I've seen exactly what you've talked about just now. You build these friendships with people that you'd maybe never meet otherwise, and they experience something with you. And together, then you can really begin to develop and cultivate these long-lasting relationships with other authors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even over the weekend, our WhatsApp thread, they were chatting with each other still because they're entering writing competitions and making progress, finishing manuscripts that they had been working on during our trip. So our group is still connecting, which I love.
Yes, that's amazing.
So there are different kinds or styles of writing retreats. One with like all writers where you just sit and write together. Some that maybe have instruction, others like ours where there'll be an agent and an editor. So what's your advice for writers who are trying to choose what kind of retreat they might want to go on?
Again, such a great question. I think the best way to answer that is to be honest about what you're craving right now. So do you need quiet and an opportunity to produce a lot of work? If you do, then you should choose a retreat that has big chunks of writing time built in. One of my writing friends just went on a retreat, and she said she loved it so much because the only place you were allowed to talk was in the kitchen. And everywhere else in this sprawling farmhouse was quiet. And she got 9,000 words in 2 days. I mean, like she was on it. It was so great for her. So if that's what you're looking for, that's the kind of retreat you should select. If you are in a position where you want to level up your craft knowledge and you want to connect on maybe an editorial relationship, then I would look for a retreat that offers both craft instruction and built-in writing time. But I think the biggest mistake I see is when an author will choose a retreat they think they should choose, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
because of its name or its notoriety or because one of their friends attended and had a great experience. All of those are valid choices, but I think the most important thing to do here is to choose the retreat for the season that you are truly in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, make sure that what you're signing up for matches your social bandwidth, right? I mentioned my friend who was in the almost all silent retreat. That's what she needed. She's not a super extroverted author. I don't think many of us are, but
Yeah.
she was more than happy to spend the majority of her day in silence. And so you want to look for a retreat that's going to support your focus, your writing plans, and who you are as an individual.
Yeah, and I think, excuse me, last year our trip was, like I said, part tour, part retreat. So there was the sightseeing aspect that was inspirational, make you see really interesting things that might inspire your writing or, create a new story. And then we went to the retreat, the villa, for the writing time and one-on-one conversations with me and offering advice, that sort of thing. And and I think everyone really enjoyed it, but the feedback that we got was there wasn't enough writing time. The amount of writing time that we had built into the earlier parts, the tour part, still wasn't enough. They wanted more of that community with each other. So I think that's what we've tried to build in this time. Maybe breaking up the days a little bit more, where you've got something with the group in the morning and then writing time in the afternoon or vice versa.
Yeah, that's such a great way to structure it, right? Because then you're getting a mix of both things. And for authors who are incredibly extroverted, then they've got the
Mm-hmm.
time to connect and communicate and then go sit to pages. And for authors
Mm-hmm.
who are the opposite, you still have that buffer. And particularly when we're traveling to international locations, I think it's so important to absorb the setting because so much of
Mm-hmm.
that is going to come through in what you write, even if your project isn't centered or focused or even set in the place that we're writing.
Right. So what have we alluded to this a little bit? What are the main differences in experience between attending a writing conference, like our Writer's Digest writing conference, for example, or participating in a retreat for people who've never done either and are trying to figure out which is right for me?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to think about that is like this. A conference is going to help you feel plugged into the industry, and a retreat is going to help you feel plugged into your work. So that's sort of what I was talking about earlier in our conversation of being honest with where you are and what you want, right? So if a conference is networking and information, a retreat is immersion and transformation for your project. We know that conferences can feel very busy and very
Mm-hmm.
structured and can feel sprawling, right? They're so energizing, but there's so much stimuli that comes from them. Retreats, of course, are smaller, they're more focused, and they're far more intimate. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are looking just to feel like you belong to the space, that you are of the industry, then maybe the writing conference is the way to go. And if you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to tackle this project, 26 is going to be the year that I finish this draft or get on query or whatever it is, then maybe retreat's going to serve you best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the difference between going to the conference, the Writers Digest annual conference, and going on our retreat tour last year was just so amazing to me. I mean, I know at the conference I'm working but it's go 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 all the time, and
Yeah.
there's an overwhelming amount of information coming your way because you've got class after class after class, and I mean I've got notebooks full of things that were helpful to me in that moment, and I come back and I'm just a little overwhelmed by the information in a great way. But it is back to your everyday life, and there's not that built-in writing time like with a retreat, where it's more of a, yeah, like you said, more plugged in to your work, as opposed to making dozens of connections and meeting all kinds of people. And I did actually have time, even though I was leading the retreat, I did have time to work on my own stuff on occasion, which was so much fun.
That's amazing, right? I always
It
feel like I
is.
go into conference and come back in a fugue state because I'm like, I
Yeah.
know I just
Yeah.
met 300, 400 authors and
Right.
whew, it was a lot. So yeah, retreats
Mm-hmm.
are so good for that. They're so much slower and they're far more, I don't know, I think the word that just came to mind was precious because I
Yeah.
really feel like a writing
Mm-hmm.
retreat is precious. And
Mm-hmm.
conferences are too, but we're talking like emeralds and I don't know, something better than an emerald. I don't know.
Right.
But you know what I mean? There's
Mm-hmm.
just something so gorgeous about a retreat that you can't get elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really do get to know everyone who's on the trip, and you sort of form um, a bond with each other, even if you never see each other in person again. It's a shared experience, and I still remember things about these people and details about their work. Um, and when I come across, an agent or a piece of advice that I think might help them, I still try to send it their way because you know them in a way, and their work in a way that you don't get when, like you said, there are 300 people
Yeah,
around.
absolutely. And you mentioned that the WhatsApp group is still vibrant. I think
Mm-hmm.
that feels to be a pretty common occurrence post retreat,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you develop this bond with this group of people, and no one's ever going to experience. Even if you went year over year to the same retreat, it's not going to be the same people. You're not going to have the same
Right.
connections, and that's what I mean about how precious it is because it is this bubble that you will never again get to recreate, but you've been a part of and you can call
Mm-hmm.
back to because now they are your people and they will support you forever and always, just as you'll support them. It's
Mm-hmm.
remarkable.
So let's talk a little bit about the retreat that we will be hosting
Hmm.
in April in Tuscany this coming year, April 7th through the 14th in 2026. Just a brief overview of the itinerary. We'll spend one night in Florence, and then the next morning we'll go to a working farm called Tenuta di Spinocchia, where we will have sort of writing time mixed in with group activities. There will be much less sightseeing than what we had done for either of our trips last year. There will be one day with an optional day trip to a nearby town, Siena, and then more writing time at the villa or at the farm, and then back to Florence for one last night. I really like how we have that writing time mixed in with group activities this year. Like I said, a little bit of maybe a cooking class one morning, and we get to eat the fruits of our labor at lunch and then get back to work, get back to the writing, that sort of thing. What kind of, let's talk a little bit about the writing time. What do you envision for that?
I think both of us bring such amazing and diverse skills to the authors who are going to join us. And so I envision it sort of feeling workshop adjacent in
Mm-hmm.
that, we all go to our respective corners of this sprawling farmhouse where we'll be for a week. And we can all sit to our pages. And if someone is stuck, if someone is concerned about character motivation or POV, or there's something that isn't flowing on a sentence level, I see that as
Mm-hmm.
being this communal effort, right? Where we can say, hey, does anyone have 5 minutes to talk? And that's
Mm-hmm.
not to let it become this like massive craft conversation, but it's a brain trust at that point and we can all learn and benefit from one another. And so I'm really excited to see the start of projects, the way projects developed over the course of the week, and then what a writer can produce by the end.
And I think one of the things that worked really well for our other group that went to London, where they had an agent and an editor, was at the beginning of the trip, they did sort of an Ask Me Anything session. That way, everyone could not just get to know each other, but, really open the floor up to what is interesting to you, what do you want to know more about, and then throughout the week, when we have additional group conversations where we're checking in with each other, we can talk more about those things. And really, instead of having, like you said, specific workshops about specific topics planned out at the beginning, we can discuss the things that are relevant to this particular group, which I think will be far more helpful than planning something in advance that may or may not be relevant to the people who are sitting right there.
Absolutely.
And that calls
back, right. And that calls back to the difference between workshop and conference and retreat. Because at conference, you've got standard programming and you can choose to attend or not. Retreat becomes so hyper-personalized. It's remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think we also will arrange for the participants to sign up for one-on-one sessions with you if they want to, with me if they want to. And that also sort of allows people to talk to somebody who might be beneficial to the stage of writing where they're at. If somebody is ready to start querying and doesn't know where to start, they can go to you. What do you look for in a query letter as an agent? How should they go about searching for the right agent for them? Whereas, if they are interested in some part of, what kind of editor should I look for? That's something that I can help with. That sort of thing. Since we have different skill sets, respectively, that overlap. I think that will be those one-on-one conversations that we had in our trip last year were really, really interesting. And I think like having an agent and an editor is the best way to do it.
Yeah, we're two sides of the same desk.
Right. Exactly.
with the author right there in the middle. And so that's just going to be what a boon to their careers and to their creative projects.
Yeah. One of the things we'll do on the last day, if people on the trip are interested in it, is sort of an open mic happy hour type thing. Though, of course, we'll be at this farm where they have their own wine that they produce. I can't wait to try it. But during the happy hour, we'll be able to share work that everyone has been working on during the trip. So it won't be just go back to your, respective homes and we never get to see what you've been working on. But if you want to share something inspired by the trip or a piece of what you've been working on, people can do that and offer encouragement. I'm particularly excited for that. It's something that has intimidated me, open mics. Okay. So I'm excited to give it a try for the first time.
Oh, wait, this will be your first time ever?
First time doing
Amy
open
Jones,
mic reading. Yeah.
I get to be a part of it. I'm so excited for that. They are intimidating though, right? Like, especially if it's, I'm calling back to my poetry days here where it's like the after hours coffee shop and it's terrible and dark and awful. And you covered in a sweat by the time you're finished with the poem that you've read. This will feel far more kind, I would imagine, for first timers for sure, because now you've spent a week with us. You know who we are as individuals, and maybe that will help you feel more emboldened to read the work. Because the more, I say it so often, the more comfortable you become with talking about your work, reading your work, the more you're preparing yourself for whatever your next phase of your career is. No matter if it's indie or trad, at some point someone's going to say, hey, what do you write? Or, hey, can I read some of your work? And you're going to have to feel comfortable enough to say yes.
And I have... yeah, spoiler alert, I have never felt comfortable enough to do that. I've managed to avoid reading, even in the creative writing classes I had in college. I avoided reading my own work out loud.
Wow. I can't believe you got through the entire program without reading out loud.
I know.
But we will change that in just a few short months.
Yes. So we mentioned the farmhouse a little bit. I want to... because this is a really cool venue that we found. It's an organization that we have, Writer's Digest had a sister organization that was part of our company a long time ago, and we'd worked with them for an artist retreat, a watercolor artist retreat. And this farm is set up specifically for organizations like ours, creative people, artists. They have a room with a kiln for pottery creatives. So they have dedicated areas for quiet writing time, outdoor areas, trails that you can go on. It is a working farm, so there are gardens, and we'll get to take a tour of that on our first day. You can try the food. Of course, they'll be cooking for us in their kitchen, but much of what we'll be eating will be grown there or on the farms nearby. I can't wait. And all of our meals will be communal together. So it's not like sort of what we did last year on either the Florence trip or the London trip, where we were finding a restaurant in the evening with a few people from the group and trying to make sure they had a table for the right size. We'll all be eating together, sharing our breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, so we can have more conversations during those times as well, which will be really great. I'm very excited about the location.
Yeah, I am too, because this is such an immersive experience, right? Mm-hmm. Such a way to disconnect from the entire world and to sit with your pages. I mean, if nothing else, and even if you don't produce anything, even if you journal the whole time and you take notes and you think about your work versus, I'm going to revise 5 chapters or write a new short story, it's still going to benefit you creatively in the long run. It's just going to be one of those life-altering experiences, right?
Yeah, it really will be. Speaking of life-altering experiences, what are your favorite things about writing retreats generally, and what do you personally hope to get from this one?
So, I love a retreat because it helps reset a writer's relationship with their work. So you step out of your normal life. There are no dishes. There is no laundry. There's no meal prep. There is absolutely nothing for you to do except be with your work. All of that noise will drop away. You remember why you care about the story. You remember why it called to you. You're going to hear your own instincts on the page so much more clearly. And so watching writers reconnect and find that spark again is just, I marvel at it every single time because it's so transformative, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's also something that's so rewarding about being in a room full of authors who take things seriously. It's not just, oh yeah, I write, or I want to write a book. We're all here for a very specific reason, no matter if those reasons are different, right? They're all going to be different. But the energy there becomes so rare, and then it's contagious. It's infectious because authors are ultimately going to leave differently than when they arrived. So I really appreciate witnessing that part. Mm-hmm. From this particular retreat, because there is so much writing time built in, I am really looking forward to returning to my own pages. As an agency director and a literary agent, I have let them fall, and I felt that creative gap. I felt how empty that cup is. And so the idea of a week, tucked away in Tuscany on a working farm to sit with my story just sounds like, gosh, what a gorgeous start to a year. It's going to be spring. It's all about renewal. There is just so much that I'm looking forward to with this trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of what I'm looking forward to it as well. I love seeing how people progress in their work over time, but I'm also hoping to get a little bit of that for myself as well, because, well, as you know, I've been trying to work on something for a little while, and it is so hard when your day job is in the publishing industry, because you're thinking and you're writing and you're editing during the day, and then you want to have some kind of time to do that, but mentally it's a lot. It's hard to get that other stuff out of your head on a normal day. So to have some dedicated time, you said, on a farm in Tuscany in the spring, sounds pretty perfect.
right? It
Yeah.
sounds gorgeous. I mean, I don't remember being this excited about a trip and for a very long time, because it's everything that I think creatively I need, what you need, what every author who's going to join us will ultimately find that they need. I'm very, very excited. And then it's just going to be so fun to develop these relationships with these authors too. I love that part of it. Really, I don't. With the absence of not being able to bring my cat.
Right. Same.
right? Like,
Same.
Like it's fine. We could just retreat after retreat.
Do you know what? I imagine that there might be a cat on the farm.
We can
hang out. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We can hang out, which we absolutely will do for sure.
There was a cat at the villa that we went to last year. He sat on the chair next to us during our one-on-one sessions. It was perfect. Perfect.
Yes. Okay. We'll put in an order for a cat at this retreat as well.
There we go. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for talking with me about this today. I can't wait to hopefully see you in April on our trip. I think it will be fantastic. For more information about the Writer's Digest retreat to Tuscany in April 2026, you can visit writersdigestshop.com. You can also email Writer's Digest Retreats at aimmedia, that's 2M's.com, with any questions. We will be very happy to answer them for you about either the events of the retreat or the location, the details. Just shoot us a message. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening to Writer's Digest Presents. Visit us online at writersdigest.com and make sure to follow us on social media at Writer's Digest for daily updates on articles, online courses, live events, and more. See you next time.